Good evening. I would like to call to order the meeting of the Dover School Committee for today, Monday, May 17th, 2021, 6:30 p.m. This open meeting is being conducted remotely consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020. Information on how to join remote school committee meetings and meeting agendas is posted on the Dover Sherborne District website. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. Please be aware that anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. First on the agenda is community comments. Please remember that community comments are an opportunity for us to listen to members of the community. It is not a forum for answering questions or engaging in a debate. We respectfully request that you please make your comments brief and that you move the discussion forward by adding new information. Once the public comment section of the meeting has been concluded, we will move on to other business, and unsolicited comments from the community will no longer be permitted. Do we have any community comments this evening? Robbie Andrews, go ahead.
Thanks.
Rob, we can't hear you that well.
How about now? Is
that better?
All right, so I'm giving up my earphones. I wanted to, I wrote to you, Leslie, and to Andrew, but in light of some of the recent community discussions, I wanted to share publicly some thoughts I had about some of the things I've been noticing at Chickering that are really, in my opinion, incredibly profoundly positive. So it's not a complaining community comment. This is like a good one. I wanted specifically to say thank you to Deb publicly. As one of the few probably out gay parents in the community, the work that Chickering does to support LGBTQ kids is it's really amazing. And I said this to Andrew and to Leslie, you won't ever know, but you're probably saving lives with the work that you're doing. And for the school board members to realize that is really important as we move forward in choosing a new superintendent. And as we have these larger community conversations, families like mine feel very welcome at Chickering, and it's profound. And so I just wanted to make sure that was a very public thank you to Deb and the leadership, and a special note that the boys' first grade teacher, Mrs. Emerson, is just phenomenal, and makes it a point to let me know that the other kids have picked up on this value of the community and the school, and normalize our family. So thank you, Deb. Thank you, school board. Thank you, Dr. Keogh, to Beth, all of the leadership on this issue. It's just really special. So thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks, Rob.
And I won't ask about budget tonight. I actually have to go do bedtime, so I'll watch the rest of the school board meeting at some point.
Rob, thank you. I just really appreciate that, as I'm sure Deb does. Deb, did you want to say anything to Rob before he hops off?
A huge thank you for working with us as part of the community. It's an important work that we're doing, and I'm glad we're all part of it. Here we go. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other community comments? Sarah, can you just help me look to make sure I'm not missing anyone? Colleen says no.
Seeing any hands raised.
Okay, great. Okay, hearing no other community comments, we will move on to the next agenda item, the K-5 Readers Workshop and Curriculum presented by Priscilla Stephen and Beth McCoy.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for taking time to learn about the curriculum we're proposing. Just a few words before Priscilla begins. As you know, in our strategic plan, we have a number of goals around teaching and learning to make sure that our students have the most robust programs with curriculum and instructional practices possible. But another goal is to continue to align the best practices across both elementary schools so that our Dover and Sherborne students have access to similar programming that we know is the best that we can offer and prepares them well for joining together at the middle school. So over the course of the last several years, Pine Hill and Chickering have come together in their math curriculum around everyday math, science with their with their hands-on units. Social studies, we're working carefully and slowly thoughtfully, I should say, to ensure that we are using primary sources and inquiry-based questioning in our units. Our Spanish teachers have been working closely across the river to make sure that our Spanish programs are similar. Our music folks, too, have been sharing lots of ideas. And now we're moving farther into the realm of literacy, which is really exciting. Priscilla Staffen is our literacy specialist at Chickering, and Jen Ryan at Pine Hill. And they've been working closely for the last 2 years, aligning some of our programming around phonics. Priscilla has great knowledge in assessments and interventions that she's been sharing with Pine Hill. So we've been coming a long way, and now we're at the point where we are going to be, hopefully with your approval, adopting the same reading curriculum. So without further ado, I'd like to say thank you to Deb and Jim and Priscilla for all of their hard work the last several years on this. And Priscilla, take it away.
All right. I was hoping to share my screen. Oh, it looks like I can do that. Okay, so I wanted to start by highlighting the work that we've been doing at Chickering, and then talk about some of the strengths of the reading units of study, and then how we're planning to implement this program moving forward. So over the past few years at Chickering, we've made several strides in enhancing our literacy instruction. 2 summers ago, we retrained all of our kindergarten through 3rd grade teachers in Foundations, which is an explicit phonics program for decoding, spelling, and sight word acquisition. It also addresses, although to a lesser extent, morphology and fluency. We also purchased updated copies of the Haggerty Phonemic Awareness Program. This program explicitly teaches phonological awareness, which is a student's ability to access and manipulate the sound structures of English. And phonological awareness is really necessary for, and it accelerates phonics learning. So when students have both of these core skills intact, it facilitates the acquisition of sight words so that they can recognize words in reading effortlessly. We've also added Lexia Core 5 to our toolbox and have licenses for students in K through 2. It's a very strong program that serves as a tool for differentiating instruction, so students can be working at, above, or below grade level on key literacy skills. We've developed tiered systems of assessments where we use literacy screeners and diagnostic assessments that give us a very clear picture of student skills and where to target instruction. And then we've implemented a range of literacy interventions for use during our WIN or What I Need block. We've also this year moved to an updated version of our writing program, Empowering Writers, and the updated units are genre-based, which will align well with the reading units of study, allowing teachers to make very strong connections between reading and writing. So a lot of this work that we've done has been around solidifying and strengthening our foundational skill instruction. And the reading units of study fit with these existing pieces, which is really important to help us round out our reading instruction. And really, it's so critical that we have a curriculum that builds from lesson to lesson, unit to unit, and year to year. And so this program will really provide the consistency from classroom to classroom that allows each teacher to build off the work from the previous year. And that goes along with what Beth mentioned about having a curriculum that's K through 8, so that all students across the schools are receiving that robust instruction and students are not making any skill regressions at transition points. So I wanted to highlight a couple key aspects of the curriculum. The first being that the units really emphasize student engagement. So in a kindergarten classroom, for example, students will participate in a unit where they learn that they have superpowers for reading. So this capitalizes on the power of play. Students are going to use their superpowers. Their knowledge of letter sound correspondence is their sound power. Their ability to maintain one-to-one correspondence is their pointer power. And using all these powers, they can read text. The program is also strong in emphasizing reading for authentic purposes. So for example, in a 3rd grade unit, students read nonfiction texts about animals. They research one animal and then they switch and research another animal. And then they compare the two. So they have to synthesize across these 2 topics. And then at the very end of the unit, they apply their knowledge to solving a real world problem. So that's that authentic application piece. So this might look like students designing a better zoo habitat for an animal, where they use all the knowledge that they've gained to create this habitat. Another important aspect of the program is that it's explicit, and there are specific tools within the program that allow us to assess and be very intentional in our teaching. So the image on the bottom right-hand side of the slide shows a learning progression, which is part of the 3rd through 5th grade units. And it's like a slice of a rubric that allows teachers to really see how comprehension skills and other reading skills develop, so that they can assess students and give them the concrete feedback and instruction they need to elevate their thinking. So for example, maybe a student is able to identify character feelings, but they need some help, some instruction into identifying character traits. And when they can do that, the teacher can then show them how to think about character motivations. And then finally, the workshop model is really focused on differentiation. So after that mini lesson where the teacher is providing explicit instruction to the whole class, the kids go off, they do independent work, and that allows the teacher to pull small targeted groups and meet with students one-on-one. And so this means that each child is really receiving targeted instruction that's responsive to their needs. So in terms of implementation, we have the 5-year literacy roadmap that was developed and you received a copy of that really outlines what we'd like to accomplish over the course of 5 years. This spring, our grade level teams have unpacked the units of study so that teachers have a broad sense for the units at that grade level. They've looked at the manuals so they know kind of what the parts of the manual are and how to navigate all of the supporting materials. And then we're going to be looking at an overview of the workshop model so that we're all on the same page about what this instruction is going to look like. And then this summer we have 13 staff members who are attending the Teachers College Summer Reading Institute. And then we have some other PD in mind. Extreme library makeovers, we'll look at the classroom libraries, and then a book club for some workshop essentials. And our plan is to roll out the reading units of study over a 2-year period. We have many teachers on board for adopting the curriculum next year, but our goal is to have everyone implementing it over 2 years. And then next fall, we'll follow up with more PD and some focused literacy coaching. So that's the end of what I wanted to highlight, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has.
Thank you, Priscilla. Liz Grossman, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that I'm so excited for you guys. I've been doing reading workshop where I work for a really long time, and it is a big undertaking, but the outcome is so wonderful. And just a couple things that I find amazing about it. The authentic application has turned our school's readers into like true lovers of reading because they're reading like what they're interested in. And that's super awesome for young kids. The small group work is wonderful because I do intervention, so I can pop into classrooms more often and do small group work that can't always happen outside of like a workshop model. And the classroom libraries, it like warms my heart to hear that this is going to be something that all the rooms at Chickering are going to have, because some classroom libraries are awesome and others need a little love. And this is just like super wonderful. So I know it's going to be a lot of work for the staff, but I am like thrilled. So bravo.
Thank you.
I have to agree with everything you said, Liz. I mean, well said. But go ahead. I'm going to give Sarah a turn to speak. Go ahead, Sarah.
Thanks. This is all very exciting, and thank you all for all of your work on this. I'm also really pleased to hear of the collaboration with Pine Hill. I think it makes good sense for all of our students in Dover and Sherburne to be reading from the same page, as it were. I guess a question that I have, and forgive me for my ignorance on this, but in a nutshell, can you say a little bit, for those of us not in the education world, on how is this different from the current experience of students? And also, what, if any, lessons have been learned from our friends at Pine Hill who are, I gather, a little farther along in the implementation on this?
So in terms of the differences from the current model, I think a lot of teachers do have kind of a workshop framework or a balanced literacy classroom in mind. And in the past, there were some trainings around creating mini lessons for that reader's workshop framework. But this is, it's like the gift of all of that work that teachers were trying to do all ready for you, and it's research-based, and they've trialed these lessons and revised them and crafted them again. So I think that's the big difference, is that we'll have this very deep, powerful set of lessons that build over time ready for us, so that teachers can focus on how they're delivering those lessons, and then on the other aspects of the workshop model, so those small group and one-to-one conferences. And then your second part, in terms of lessons learned from Pine Hill, do you want to comment on that, Beth?
Sure. I would say that a few lessons learned is even a few years ago, the early adopters, even though, like Liz said, there is a tremendous amount of investment involved in terms of time and learning on the teacher's part. And in fact, you even have a 5th grade teacher at Chickering who tried a unit this year, and the teachers go in thinking, oh my goodness, this is overwhelming. And they come out saying, wow, that was amazing. And I love this. So I think just the general support of the program and belief in the program over time has been a lesson learned. I think the value of our literacy specialists, both Jen and Priscilla, is huge. Pine Hill has been trying to implement this for over 5 years, 6 years. And it finally took the muscle power of Jen Ryan and then Priscilla's collaboration to get it going in 98% of the classrooms at Pine Hill. And next year, it'll be 100% of the classrooms. So I think having that internal professional development and internal support is really key. Because both Priscilla and Jen are well respected and they're available at all times, versus having Teachers College fly in, from time to time and just dribble pieces of fairy dust, whereas Priscilla can offer it continuously. And I think too, just seeing as has been mentioned, and has been the case with our Chickering students all along, is just that love of reading and that love of learning and the love of writing that comes with it. And thinking ahead to the middle school, I know Priscilla mentioned that this is a K-8 initiative. The middle school is going to also be partaking in the Teachers College training this summer. They also have gotten the units of study and are reviewing them. And in pockets at the middle school, they have implemented book clubs, which falls under the workshop model. And Monique and I were speaking with some middle school students just last week and talking about the books that they're reading in class. And they were just ecstatic that they had choice, ecstatic that there was a common theme among the books that they were reading, but they could pick the books and then have small group conversations and then try to convince others to read the same book. And I think that's really telling too, because the middle school is moving away from the more traditional model of teaching literature to developing this love of reading, which we see at Chickering and Pine Hill. So a few of the takeaways, but it's exciting times.
Can I add one thing to that also, Beth? Because I'm not sure how many people know, but we have been making a concerted effort in the last 4 years to to find ways to provide interventions to kids early on, especially around literacy and numeracy. Because the research shows that when kids have lost ground by fourth grade, those gaps only get bigger. And so if you can get your kids up to speed early on, before or after fourth grade, your special ed referrals tend to go down as a system. And I saw that in my previous district, which is why I've been pushing so hard for it. And the teachers and Deb and Laura Dial before this were all on board with this. This is where the win block came from, making sure that we can identify who's struggling and then provide the double down. So I think with this really tested curriculum model, we're going to be able to do that even better. So that's what's exciting about it for me. And I agree with you, being able to say the same thing in Sherburne and Dover, where the educators are speaking the same language, and because the kids are going to the middle school together in 5 short years. So thanks.
And I just want to comment too that we appreciate the support of the community. This is not an inexpensive program based on professional development that is phenomenal from Teachers College. There's an investment there. As Liz mentioned, the importance of having classroom libraries. They say for every child in the classroom, there should be roughly 20 books. So you want to make sure that every classroom has books on the various levels of reading for that grade level, on different topics of interest, to make sure that their students are reflected and they can see themselves and their stories and their backgrounds in the books. So the purchasing of books is important too. So I appreciate Dawn's creativity and Deb's support in finding professional development money, textbook money, grant money to support those purchases.
Thank you, ladies. Do we have any other comments from the school committee members? Okay, before we move ahead, I just also want to say thank you very much for this program. Especially my middle child is a voracious reader, and he is really learning that from Chickering. My only question is, and maybe I missed it, is you mentioned that there are book clubs in the middle school. Is it possible to have book clubs in the elementary? Because I know George would die to have that.
Yeah, the book clubs are a part of the program in the elementary school, as are research clubs. So that is something that's in the program.
Great.
And they're actually stretching all the way up through the high school. One of our high school teachers went to Teachers College when we could actually travel there a few years ago with our middle school teachers and pick that up. So it's really nice to see that option all the way through, and giving kids choice, which we know really inspires learning.
It is. Thank you. Thank you for everyone involved. And thank you, Priscilla, for presenting the program
Thank
this evening.
you. Thanks.
So that is an action required, Leslie. You know that.
I'm about to do that. Hearing no other discussion, do I have a motion to adopt the K-5 Readers Workshop and curriculum as presented this evening by Priscilla Stephen and Beth McCoy? Sarah? Do I have a second? Mark Healy, second. Discussion? All members, please take yourselves off mute. Liz Grossman?
Ms. Grossman, yes.
Mark Healy?
Mark Healy, yes.
Colleen Burt?
Colleen Burt, yes.
Sarah Gutierrez Dunn?
Sarah Gutierrez Dunn, yes.
And Leslie Leon, yes. The K-5 Readers Workshop and curriculum as presented this evening has been approved. Thank you to everyone. Lots of clapping. Next on the agenda, we have the principal's report with Dr. Reineman.
Excellent. Thank you. I'd like to start with turning my lights back on. Sorry. No, maybe not. Nope. Time. Meeting's over. There we go. Sorry. Huge thank yous to Priscilla, who probably jumped out. Nope, she's still right there. Priscilla, thank you very much for your time and energy in putting this together and all the work that we've done this year. I'm so excited to get launched here. One of the other pieces, back to Liz's question, is our staff has changed too over the last 5 or 6 years. So there's a lot of new staff who've come in with new ideas, and it's important that we have everyone trained in the same program for reading. So another piece to all of that. My principal's report was included in the packet. I don't know what happened to the formatting. I'm sure it was my fault on a Google Doc, but there really was header on there. The second glaring piece, I didn't say a thing about MCAS. And can you tell that means someone is doing such a great job with it? I didn't even think about it for the principal's report. So before I dive in there, I'd love to give Mr. Carnes just a few minutes to tell us about the wonderful MCAS updates.
Nice job on that, Deb. You just didn't want to follow Priscilla's presentation. It's
No.
exciting to do a Readers Workshop, and I get to talk about testing. So nice segue. So thank you. So planning for MCAS, it begins way back in about January. There's a lot that goes into it on many parties in the school. All teachers each year, grades 3 through 5, have to be retrained or trained for the first time to administer the test. Educational assistants, same thing. If they've been trained before, they get to go through the training again. It's always good just for a refresher. Originally this year, the remote students were going to have the option to opt into MCAS. If they did, they would have to come into school to take it. DESE made a change on that, allowing all remote students to take it remotely. And so we do have remote MCAS going on this year for the first time. Overall, things have run pretty smoothly. We started last week. Last week, 5th, 4th, and 3rd all took the math section of the MCAS. Few small hiccups, but a lot of teamwork, and we were able to overcome those. This week, we're following the same schedule. 5th tomorrow, 4th on Thursday, and 3rd on Friday. We'll take the English language arts section of MCAS. And then next Tuesday, 5th grade is the only grade that takes the STEM section: science, technology, engineering, and math. We will be having makeups next week as well for any students who miss a section. DESE did make a decision this year to shorten the test. Instead of having multiple sections of math, multiple sections of ELA, we just have one of each, which is great, just because of lost time and many factors. Done a tremendous amount of flexibility with MCAS. It's a 3rd grade through 5th grade test at the elementary level, but it's really a school-wide undertaking, and that there's changes to schedules. The specialists, the Spanish schedules also get changed. Moving around in the halls silently. I see kindergartners and 1st grade classes sneaking around the halls as if they're, just on some kind of adventure. It's teachers get really creative with how to sell that. 5th graders, not so much sneaking around the hall, but they're pretty good about it too. But changes in things like recess location, how we enter the building, just to minimize distraction for everybody. So it's like I said, it's really a school-wide undertaking. This year, it's going to be interesting to get the information back, which we will get in the fall sometime, just to see where we are. We know that this year has been what it's been, and we'll take that information with everything in mind that we've gone through this year, and use it as best we can to improve our practices and fill in any gaps that we may have missed. So, any questions about MCAS this year? Colleen.
Thanks. The shortened test, is that just this year? That was just because of the COVID factors, or is that ongoing? It will be shortened.
That's a good question. It will be interesting to see what the state or what DESE decides. If you ask me, I hope that would be the case, but I'm not the one making that decision.
They're certainly getting a lot of feedback, Colleen, about MCAS. I guess particularly because of the pandemic, people are feeling as if, yes, we do want to make sure we assess the students for how much learning loss there has been, but at the same time, do you really get valid results after kind of some of the trauma that the families, staff, administrators, and students have experienced? What how much will it tell us? So I've heard the commissioner get a lot of feedback on that, but these states are mandated by the federal government, so big changes to them need state approval and federal approval. That's why they didn't do away with them this year. So, but I know that there's a move afoot to have these tests change a bit. And I think one of the silver linings that Beth will be talking about in the coming months is that we are starting again to see the merits of the project-based learning, and which is part of our Portrait of a Graduate work. And so I wouldn't be surprised if the state gives us more flexibility on how we assess what students have learned, or their achievement in different ways, as opposed to just the pen and paper test, or in this case, computer tests. Would you agree with that, Beth?
Yes. There's already districts in the state who are piloting project-based learning in the MCAS area. So we're hopeful that that will spread over time. And if I could too, just say thank you to Deb and Jim. Every time that we have entered a new phase this year, they have recreated schedules and room assignments. It's been a lot of work. And then to think that they had to invest such a large amount of time in organizing for MCAS, which for all of the reasons just mentioned is not probably the best use of our educators' time and professional time. So thank you for making that happen and making sure that our in-person and remote students have access in person or remotely. The dates have changed, the expectations have changed, but you've followed the target and you got it done. So thank you.
I would echo that. And when I say the trauma of the students, I mean it when I say the trauma of the staff and the administrators as well, because trauma takes many different forms. But when you wake up in the morning and you're refreshed, and then 45 minutes later you're exhausted, that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's just, we've been through the mill, and certainly this summer will help. But anyway, I don't know where I was going with that, but anyway, thank you, Jim and Deb, and to our staff who are here too.
A lot of people have put in a lot of work to make this happen. And I think it's so important, just to echo what you said, with everything that's gone on this year, that we encourage our students to go in and treat it like any other day as much as possible. We go in, we do our best, and we move on. And that's what we do. So thank you.
Thanks, Jim. My principal's report includes information about the changes to the student handbook and the school improvement plan, which I see are on the agenda later. If you have any questions about the other items in there, I can certainly adjust them now instead of going out of order.
Not a question, maybe just a comment. I know you're looking for a new art teacher, and I have to say Miss Pelletier has added such joy to my kids' elementary experience, and Arts Night is still my favorite night of the year, and I can't wait till we have that back.
Us too. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Yes. Got a great set of committees helping us to try to find a new art teacher and a new librarian to make their own mark on the school.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Do we have, Deb, do you have anything more you want to say for the principal's report?
No, the other items are later in the agenda, so I can go through those then.
Okay, I would say it looks like we don't have any more questions for Deb, so we could move right on to the warrant report. Thanks, Deb.
Thank you.
So included is a 2-page warrant report today. So lots to look at, and you can thank Mark for stopping by Town Hall every time we have warrants to be signed. So always happy to answer any questions about the specific warrants, and you're always available to review any of the detail at your request. We do keep copies here. Should we go on to the monthly report?
Sure, go right ahead, Dawn. Thank you.
So it's actually pretty brief tonight. We've had some stable operations over at Chickering, which is great. My only highlight to you, and again, that's in bold, is in regards to out of district. So Accept Collaborative, which provides all of our majority of our transportation for our out of district students, has issued 2 reimbursements since the last time we met. One was because they had a surplus. They are sort of like the region where they can only keep a limited amount of their free cash, and then they have to give it back to the members. So we received a small surplus return that was applied directly to transportation. But in addition, if you remember, we noted that because Accept could only put 2 students in every van, we were over budget because we had to go find transportation for some of our own students. Well, they've been able to reimburse any school district that had a student slated to be transported by Accept, but had to go elsewhere. So with those 2 credits in total, we're able to apply $76,000 of savings onto your transportation, which helps that negative operating variance on your out of district, brings it down to $655,000. So that was a nice piece of information to receive, and we've already received those credits and they've been applied towards your open invoices. So those have all been processed. Other than that, everything else is operating based on where we projected. And so we're looking still to return back to the town a little more than $600,000 because of the circuit breaker reimbursement. I also will highlight that since we last met, we've received additional we've been granted additional COVID related monies, and that is coming out of the American Rescue Plan. And so Dover is projected to receive an additional $170,000 in COVID relief. We're just now starting to get the specifics on how that grant is going to work. I will highlight that it is supposed to be monies that are spent over the next couple of years, because we know we're not going to necessarily recover from everything from the pandemic in 1 year. So the timeline goes all the way through the fall of fiscal year 24. They are requiring us to put together a pretty detailed plan on how we want to use this money and the implementation. And they are looking to make sure you spend it over the course of those multiple years, so that you don't find yourself coming up short to get past 1 year and you don't have enough money to continue whatever remedies or ramifications that you need to do. So we will be putting that together and most likely presenting to the school committee the plans probably in September, because I believe they're due in October. But it'll be more of a formal sort of implementation plan because of the size of the monies that they are distributing. And in addition, in your financial report, you have your quarterly financial statements as of March 31st for all your special revenue and revolving funds.
Great, thank you, Dawn. Do we have any questions from the school committee members for Dawn? That's great. Thank you very much, Dawn, as always. Hearing no questions, we'll move on to agenda item number 6, the proposed changes to 2021-22 student handbook with Dr. Reinman.
Hi, Yen. So if you haven't visited our family handbook in the last year or two, you'll find that it's on our website in a very easy to read format, but very difficult to print format. So should you decide that you want a printed copy of it, you need to request it, especially from the office, because if you just print the webpage, it's a mess. But if you go to each section, I tried to go in order and pull out the pieces that we wanted to update or change. The piece in the health information was recommended by our lead nurse. The section on academics, we needed to put something in there. In attendance, we added in a section about being excused for religious holidays, which we didn't have in there before. For some reason, our field trips made it sound like you could drive other students. Not how it goes at all, so that had to be changed. And some information about media and social posting for students. And then religious holidays circles around again. So we just made those in line with each other. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to explain in more detail.
I have a quick question, as I know I will be asked this personally. You probably can assume what it is. Your class placement said we will receive the assignments over the summer. You crossed off via mail. Are you emailing them in the future?
I hope so, but I'd like to give myself the wiggle room for either. Email worked out very nicely, and we would like to be able to do that. I feel that after this year, I don't dare, there's a lot of things I don't dare pin down, but assuming the internet still works this summer, it's our hope to email them like we did.
Okay, and then are you going to go back to closer to the start of the school year when you email them?
We're going to aim for the beginning of August.
Okay.
Yeah, that seems to be a good time. If you wait much more than that, the stress level in town goes up too much, and I can't drive around anywhere, so we need to trim it.
Yes, that's fair. Do we have any other questions or comments from the school committee members for Deb? Don't mind Oscar. He's outside, Oscar. Okay, we can move on. Thank you, Deb, very much. to the school improvement plan?
Mhm. I have a fantastic school advisory committee group this year. And I'm not just saying it because Rob Anders is on it, among other things. So there's a group, we've looked at our goals. We have not marked out to the benchmarks and outcomes piece yet, but we thought we would share the 4 goals we have so far. The first one we're calling Keeping the Gems. Beth McCoy is leading a group of educators from all 4 schools, and she's calling it the silver lining. So I'll take silver lining versus gems, but it's a piece to look at what did we learn from this last year, from the hybrid experience? What do we want to keep? And with that, what can we Marie Kondo and get rid of? And how does it all fit within our work with Readers Workshop and existing curriculum? So that first piece is a very big goal, but hopefully we'll take the good and the bad from this year and learn from that. So teachers may pick a specific content area to work on for that for a goal, or grade levels may decide to focus on finally cleaning out some of those filing cabinets that need to get cleaned out. Goal 2 looks at the implementation of Readers Workshop. I can say nothing better than what Priscilla has already said on Readers Workshop. 3 is the equity audit, which you are well aware of is the district level work, and that will match up with what we as a district decide to plug in there for the equity audit. And then 4 is the one that the SAC seems to be the most excited about, which is opening the school up to mostly seniors, but people who don't have children in the school. And it comes from our community representative who, when SAC and school committee came in for a day in the life of a Chickering student, I don't know how many of you have done this way back before COVID. We used to have you come in and you could wander around the school in groups and wander into classrooms and see what's going on and ask questions. And you got to have school lunch and go out to recess and kind of live the Chickering experience, and how powerful it was then when people in town would say to our community member, well, why does the school need that much money? And, are you sure? And are they doing anything for us? And so he really sees this as a way to showcase the school for all the amazing things that we're doing, and to see the students, to see the diversity in the school. It's a great learning experience. I can't recreate a day in the life of Chickering for every person that comes in, but if we think about our community and pairing up with the seniors, what if a couple of seniors came into Renee Grady's classroom and had snack and talked to them about life in the day of, or what's going on now? What if we went so far as to say we're having a mini field day on the town green, and some of the kids walk down and they play the games that seniors used to play that didn't involve a screen in their thumbs, right? I mean, so there's a lot of opportunities. We'd also like to open up the school for our seniors to come in for our Thanksgiving sing-along, our Festival of Lights, make sure that they come to our arts night. Our music instructors will be the first to tell you that they love an extra audience the night before performance or the day before performance. So assuming COVID allows all of this and we can figure out how to make it happen, SAC would really like to let more people see the jewel that is Chickering. So there's some really good energy there. I think it's very doable. And that is the one that is the most different of the 4. But I can certainly answer questions about any of those if you're interested.
I'll just speak. I'll take the turn since no one else has raised their hand yet. But Deb, I love this idea. I love the idea of bringing the seniors into the school and getting them involved, and the kids playing the games the seniors played. And I was always involved with the seniors growing up, and I still fondly remember that. And I also remember during COVID, the kids were paired up with some seniors and they were writing letters. George and Vic were writing letters, and they learned a lot. We can learn so much from them. Mm-hmm. I think this is a great idea. Is anyone else? Go ahead, Liz.
I was just going to say, I know number 1 is keeping the gems is also another one of those daunting tasks. You kind of feel like you survived through all this stuff and like, let's just get going from it. But I do think that there are so many great things that did come from COVID learning. And while it's more work, I appreciate that you guys are going to take the time to bring in some new good stuff that worked well and get rid of some of the stuff that just was around because that's how we always did it.
By the way, Liz, not the least of which being resilience, which is something that we've talked for years about, years and years at Dover Sherburne, dating way back to when my oldest was coming through. Resilience, resilience, resilience. How do we teach resilience? Well, one way to teach resilience is to let them not have their way. And it's very hard for us because we don't like to not have our kids have their way, but they've come through this stronger. And I think we're going to see from this generation that it impacts them in a positive way, that they can handle it. And I don't think it was easy, but they can do it. And I think they'll be stronger for it. So I agree with you. That GEMS one is a great one, Deb. Thanks.
Yeah.
Any other school committee members?
I think just briefly, I also love the idea of Goal 4 and the community connections with seniors on multiple events throughout the year. I think it would also be valuable to invite some real estate agents who may not have kids in the district anymore, just so they have a fresh perspective on what makes the schools great instead of assuming what makes it great. I think it's really nice. I absolutely love the day we got to spend at Chickering before the pandemic, and that would be eye-opening for a lot of people.
Thank you.
Deb, will we get to do that? Will the new committee members get to spend a day in the life next year?
I hope so. Yeah, that worked out really well.
Yeah, it was a great experience. I did it with Mark. It was great. Yeah. Do we have any other comments? Okay, hearing none. Thank you very much, Dr. Reineman.
Certainly, thank you.
Next up on the agenda is the consent agenda. We have the minutes from March 4th, 2021. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved, Colleen Burt.
Thank you, Colleen. Second?
Second, Liz Grossman.
Thank you, Liz. Any discussion? Could all members please take yourself off mute? Mark Healy?
Mark Healy, yes.
Sarah Gutierrez Dunn?
Sarah Gutierrez Dunn, yes.
Liz Grossman?
Liz Grossman, yes.
Colleen Burt?
Colleen Burt, yes.
And Leslie Leon, yes. Lastly, and just as an FYI for the members, we've included the regional school committee minutes from February 2nd and 23rd and March 2nd, 2021. We have also included the Sherborne School Committee minutes from February 9th, 2021. Before we end here, I just want to say, Liz, thank you for stepping up and volunteering and getting your name on the ballot. I wish you luck,
for having me.
but I don't think you need it. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Colleen Burt, so moved.
Second?
Mark Healy, second.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. Great. Thank you to everyone for this evening. Thank you.